So, how do plants drink water without pump? Or how does sugar move from leaves to roots? Basically, plants don't have a heart, but yet they can move water from roots to leaves that are even meters above the ground. So, how do they do it? The answer lies in two transport tissues called xylem and phloem. Plant tissues. So basically, we already mentioned we have xylem and phloem, which are extremely important regarding plants. Like in humans, we have heart and blood vessels. These in humans, blood vessels are transporting blood in depends on the direction and the type of the blood vessel. So in one direction can be oxygenated blood rich with oxygen and different nutrients, and in opposite direction can be deoxygenated blood without nutrients that we need, basically with waste that needs to be released out from the human body. This is situation in humans. In plants, we don't have these blood vessels, but we have something that we call plant vessels, like xylem and phloem. So there is definitely a difference between these two type of plant tissue. One of them is that xylem is actually the one that will transport water and minerals from the roots to the stem and leaves, and it goes only in one direction. Phloem is basically, it can go in both directions, meaning up and down. And this one, phloem, will transport food materials, for example, amino acids, sugars such as sucrose, etc. And this direction, as I mentioned, can go either from roots to the top or from the top to the roots, so both. Together, xylem and phloem vessels we call the vascular bundles, because later I will show you on the diagram how they look like, meaning they're really close to each other, but the function and the property between these two is definitely different. For example, if we are talking about xylem, the one that is transporting water from the roots to the top, and it goes only in one direction, this one is basically made of something that we call dead cells. These cells, this tissue will not have a cytoplasm. It will have a hollow tubes, and the walls will be built up of something that we call lignin. Why this lignin is so important? Because it will make them strong enough to hold up the pressure and prevent different kind of damages on the cells or in the end on the tissue. Regarding phloem, as we mentioned, the phloem can go in both directions, meaning up and down. This one is made of something that we call CV tube elements and companion cells. And definitely we say for the phloem that the phloem is made of living cells. Xylem. So about xylem and why actually water needs to be transported from roots to the top, meaning to the leaves, is one of the reasons is because if you remember when we talk about it, there's one process called transpiration. Transpiration is basically when plants will lose water through the leaves, the lower part of the leaf, meaning that the water will leave out through these openings by process called diffusion. Diffusion is meaning that something is moving from higher to lower concentration. So when plant is losing that water through that process called transpiration, this water basically needs to be replaced inside of the leaf. Why? Because we need that water in leaf for photosynthesis. The main point when this water evaporates basically from leaves, it will create a pulling force, and that pulling force basically will move that water or help to move water from roots to the top. There are two keywords that should be used regarding this movement of water, meaning when we are talking about xylem. One is cohesion and second one is adhesion. Cohesion is basically, as you can see on this diagram, is when water molecules are stick together, and adhesion is when this water will stick to the walls of this plant vessel or xylem. Phloem. So there are few things that are really important to mention about phloem. One of them is that you really should know that the main parts of phloem are these sieve tube elements. These are basically long tube like cells that are joined end to end. End walls have holes. These holes we basically call the sieve plates. Why this is so important? Because this is the thing that will actually allow substances to flow easily through the phloem. Basically, we will say that these will form the main pathway for the transport. When we talk about transport, we already mentioned that phloem is transporting sugars such as sucrose or amino acids and similar things. And it can go in both directions, meaning up and down. Then the second main thing or part or structure of the phloem is companion cells. These ones are located next to the sieve tubes. And why they're so important? Because they are containing a lot of many mitochondria, meaning we already know that mitochondria is a cell organelle which is responsible to produce energy for the cells, meaning basically these mitochondria that are located in companion cells will provide energy for transport, because sieve tube elements have really little or small amount of cytoplasm. One more important thing is that these sieve tube elements do not have a nucleus, and so this is really important that they are really relying on companion cells to function properly. As we mentioned, the main purpose or function of phloem is transportation of basically dissolved food substances such as glucose, amino acids, etc. And the second thing is this transport of substances. Basically, the key word that you should be using is called translocation. So translocation is basically the movement of food inside or in the phloem. How this will happen? So phloem transport happens from source to sink. What is the meaning these two words? So source is basically where food is produced. By now we know that plants are producing food by process called photosynthesis, and that photosynthesis will happen inside of the leaf. So source will usually be leaves. And sink is basically part of the plant where food is either used or stored. So this can be, for example, roots, fruits, or any growing tissues. So this is extremely important. So one more time, phloem transport will basically happen from source to sink. These are one of the most important things, and the one more that I will mention is that phloem transport will use pressure flow and definitely requires energy. So we call it an active process. One more time, in phloem, direction of movement of substances is going in both directions, meaning up and down, down and up, meaning from leaves to the roots or from roots to the growing shoots. This will definitely depend on where the source and sink are. The main thing that or how translocation works, basically it goes like this. So sugars are produced in the leaves, which is a source. They are actively loaded in the phloem. This will increase concentration inside of the phloem. Water enters by osmosis. This will create pressure. Then the sugar solution is pushed along the phloem. At the sink, sugars are removed and used or stored. So this is the whole process how basically translocation will happen. This in one part I mentioned that water enters by osmosis. We know that water is transported by xylem. So water will come from xylem to the phloem, so that can cause this pressure that is needed so the substances can be easily moved.